Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Smiths Interconnect webinar. My name is Katie, and I will be your Global Spec moderator, and I would like to review a few housekeeping items with you before we begin. Please take a moment to familiarize yourself with the operation of the user interface for today's webinar. The large window with the heading Presentation in the upper left is the primary window for today's webinar. Just to the right of the main presentation window is the Speaker Bio window, with background information on today's presenters. Just below that is the Q&A window. At any time during the presentation, you can enter a question into the box in the lower section of the window and click Submit. Your question will be placed in the queue to address when we get to the Q&A session. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see some additional buttons to enhance your webinar experience. To see what a particular button does, just place your mouse pointer over it and a tooltip will appear with the description of the button's function. Now I would like to introduce today's presenters. So with us today, we have Justin Fry. Justin is a senior product line manager of the medical area at Smiths Interconnect. And joining him today, we have Aiden Irvin. Aiden is a design engineer at Smiths Interconnect. So to read more about either of them, please look at that speaker bio window next to the main presentation window. So now let's go over our goals for today, everyone. Today, we're going to cover the current medical market needs for increased focus in developing connectors that are safe, reliable, and cost-effective for single-use applications. And we're going to have a special focus on understanding the current market needs for disposable interconnect solutions. We're going to showcase the new disposable receptacle Hypergrip connector. And we're going to be discovering the full Hypergrip series developed through the years. So moving on, before we get into that, we have a polling question I'd love for you all to answer. So polling question is up on the screen right now. Feel free to choose your answer as I'm kind of reading it out. So how would you rate the range of disposable medical connector options available on the market today? So we have A is oversaturated, B meets market needs, and C needs improvement. So I'm going to leave that up on the screen for just a moment for all of you to submit your answers. We appreciate your participation in our poll. So again, just reading out the question, how would you rate the range of disposable medical connector options available on the market today? Oversaturated, meets market needs, or needs improvement? Again, I'll leave that up for about another 15 seconds or so for you all to answer. All right, so we have some answers that have come in. So I'm going to move us over to our results slide. So results here, Justin, at this time, I'm going to pass it over to you if you want to go over any of our results and kind of get this webinar started. So Justin, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. So the results, just looking at them here, looks like the majority is needs improvement. And I'll say that is what we've heard from the market as well, what we expect, especially for those of you who are up to date on some of the latest technologies coming out, especially in the area of electrophysiology and new ablation technologies that are starting to really take hold in the market and really even expand outside of electrophysiology into other parts of the body. It's really increasing the demand being placed on disposables. And what I mean is the performance demand and the requirements. So as we're really in this point in the market where we're seeing what's required from a disposable connector is changing. And we are here to try and help solve that problem for the market, introduce solutions that help the OEMs of medical devices keep pushing care forward and improving the lives of patients. So we expect that we did expect to see that needs improvement to be the majority of the answer, and as time goes on, I think within the next 12 months, you might even say it still needs improvement, even though a lot of manufacturers are trying to solve the current needs in the market. So what we'll talk about today, as Katie mentioned, are some of the market trends we're seeing that are driving the need for disposables and what that means in terms of requirements, challenges for manufacturers, challenges for medical device OEMs and contract manufacturers that are looking for solutions, and then the considerations that we take into account when developing our own version of these solutions. And then we'll talk about our most recent offering, which is the Hypergrip disposable that Katie mentioned. So from a technology standpoint, The market is rapidly adopting and continues to move toward minimally invasive methods as alternatives to the more invasive methods, being minimally invasive being smaller incisions where you access the patient's area of care through smaller incisions with something like a catheter or an endoscope, or via an existing orifice in the body. For instance, things go down the esophagus and other parts of the body to, again, access parts of the body that can then be diagnosed but also treated. So therapy and diagnosis are both being done this way. And there's some recent innovations in the market that are really driving even more rapid adoption of technologies in various parts of the body. The benefit of this type of minimally invasive procedure is a shorter hospital stay, less risk for the doctor and the patient in terms of being less critical, less life critical in terms of if a mistake is made or if something is happening during the procedure. The procedure takes less time because it's a smaller incision. The patient is in and out of the hospital faster, and a lot of times it can be done with either local anesthesia or no anesthesia at all, versus general anesthesia for an invasive treatment. We're also seeing, specifically for disposables, or where disposables are seeing a benefit, are a lot of innovations in manufacturing methods, especially those that favor or enable automation and micromolding, which creates new opportunities for us to offer disposable solutions that can meet both the performance and cost objectives of the markets we serve. One of those innovative or disruptive technologies that I've alluded to is pulsed electric fields. In electrophysiology, this is called pulse field ablation, or PFA, but the background technology is called post-electric field ablation, or irreversible electroporation. And what that does is that creates a non-thermal way or method of ablating tissue, meaning you don't have any issues with potential burning of or scarring of unintended tissues in the body. It's focused. It treats patients just as quickly, if not more quickly, than legacy ablation systems like radiofrequency and cryoablation. And because of its success and rapid adoption in electrophysiology, it is now being looked at to treat everything from tumors to diabetes to renal nerve care. It's really starting to take over in terms of tissue ablation throughout the medical environment, and that is where you'll see some of the new requirements, especially in the way of high voltage, being allowed or enabled by disposables. So that, again, it's a new requirement that's being needed or requested by the market, that we're trying to solve with this product. There's also a trend for real-time monitoring, things like wearables that are becoming more commonplace in healthcare. People wear continuous blood glucose monitors. There's wearable neurostimulation or neuromodulation devices that people wear. There are people with various ailments that they wear something all the time to just consistently treat or dose them. And these are all areas where disposables are becoming, again, more critical to enabling those types of devices that improve patients' day-to-day lives as well. From a global standpoint, as is the case and has been the case for a long time, our population is continuing to age. We're aging, but also in the same vein, what that drives is a higher incidence of cardiovascular and cancer throughout the world. So those types of ailments that are able to now be treated with products that can use a disposable interconnect is really going to continue to drive that need for disposables to continue to innovate. We're also seeing growing affluence and access to care globally, including a lot of global healthcare tourism, which drives market acceptance for minimally invasive procedures. A lot of the reasons for global tourism is either the country you're in doesn't have an insurance reimbursement scheme that allows for some of these new minimally invasive, very effective, less intense procedures. So you go to a country that does allow for it, or the country just hasn't even adopted it as a technology yet, even if they would or wouldn't reimburse. They just don't have the technology yet. Cost and risk of managing complex processes for reprocessing. In a nutshell, what that means is sterilization is kind of a pain especially for hospitals to manage. Depending on the type of sterilization, there is off-gassing that is considered a carcinogen. There's others where you have to have a long drying cycle if you're doing like a steam sterilization, and the record keeping has to be flawless when you're managing device reprocessing. So a lot of this cost that goes into reprocessing can be saved by switching to a disposable solution. And there's also significant funding and further improved detection, diagnosis, and treatment times. And in a lot of cases where disposables are being used, it's for that real-time, in-the-moment type of diagnosis. So some of it can even be outpatient. In some cases where you can see your general practitioner, they can recommend something, some diagnosis procedure, and you can get it, walk down the hall to the next room because it doesn't require a surgeon, for instance, to help with diagnosis. What this means for connectors and what we consider, there is an increase in cost pressure to combat alternative therapies, new market entrants, and cost per therapy. Cost per therapy is a term we use to sort of capture the total cost of ownership when purchasing products from us or when offering a solution to the medical market. And alternatives are typically, as I mentioned, either our competitors who are trying to make products like ours, but also a lot of these diagnoses and especially the therapies can be done in other ways. You can image the heart in multiple ways. You can use fluoroscopy, you can use a catheter, you can use x-ray, you can do all sorts of things. And it's just a matter of which gets the job done the most efficiently with the less risk to the patient and the physician. And then lastly, there are many of these, especially on the therapy side, that are done via pharmaceuticals as well. And so that's another alternate therapy is, the patient's decision and the doctor's decision whether one of these procedures can cure an ailment versus a patient needing to be on pharmaceuticals for an extended period of time. The increased need for hybrid connectors, and when we say hybrid here at Smiths, what we're referring to is a connector that has more than one type of, let's say, contact technology or application of the or deployment of what that connector is doing. For instance, we'll have connectors that need to run a coax line and a bunch of power, or some high voltage lines with some low voltage signal lines, or a fiber line or two or three multiple fiber lines, but also with maybe a USB line in there as well, lines. So those are what we call hybrid connectors, where we need to make sure, and we do take care that when we're designing a connector family, that we can accommodate that wide range of technologies that we know that our markets ask for. The contact density is reaching new heights as well, meaning more stuff put in the same size connector. This does create unique challenges for connector manufacturers and for cable integrators. The smaller and tighter things get, the harder it is to make it cost effective, not just to manufacture, but also to then integrate into your system. If you have a lot of tight connections, then you have to have somebody pretty skilled to make those connections into, say, a cable assembly or into a system. So we're always balancing those, and we understand that our customers also struggle with that same return on investment. When do you reach the maximum number of contacts you want in a smaller footprint? Signal integrity, reliability, and one-hand intuitive mating are considered paramount. In a lot of cases, these disposable applications are intended to be effortless, quick, single-use, for lack of a better term, foolproof, meaning it just works every time. The whole idea is for it to be very efficient and cost-effective. When we look at some of the industry trends and what that means for how we design, that's what we'll cover here. So medical disposable connectors are imperative to the performance of electromechanical devices. Electromechanical meaning anything that you're using to deliver energy or a signal or power of some kind. So all of the connectors we make are, let's say, electrical in nature. In the minimally invasive segment, typically you find disposables in catheter and endoscope handles, which connect the disposable side of the device, which is typically everything from where the doctor is holding a handle and delivering care to the patient, all the way to the very tip that is touching the patient, whether it's inside the body or outside the body. Typically, it's inside the body. And that whole part of the device is usually a disposable item. And sometimes they can be very complex. Examples include electrophysiology mapping and ablation catheters, imaging catheters, whether it's intracardiac echo or intravenous intravascular ultrasound. Those are examples where a doctor's holding a handle and everything going from that handle out to the patient is considered a disposable item. In patient monitoring and wearables, they can be found anywhere therapy is being delivered externally or a sensor being used to monitor a patient. For instance, flow sensors, critical organ activity monitors, wearable blood glucose monitors, brain stimulation devices. There's many others that are coming. There are many manufacturers that are trying to come to market with new, innovative, wearable therapy devices continuously. And we see varying requirements based on what they're trying to accomplish, and we don't see that slowing down anytime soon. So what does that mean for us and for anyone looking for a solution? One, we need design flexibility. We need to make sure that given the range of the disposables market and where it's going, we need to make sure that we can accommodate things like hybrid footprints, maintaining premium performance, compatibility with high volume manufacturing processes to try and limit costs as much as possible. For instance, making it available for overmolding, reducing the amount of material if you can, reducing the number of components to make assembly simpler, things of that nature. We also need to make sure it's fit for use in the environments, the critical environments that they're going to be introduced into. In a lot of cases, they're introduced into sterile environments. And in other cases, they're introduced into environments where they will be patient contacting, meaning a portion of the device touches the skin for an extended period of time. So what that means for us is that biocompatibility and ergonomics are absolutely critical, especially in the way of wearables needing lightweight solutions that are easy to mate and unmate with passive latches, which we call breakaway when pulling force is applied. And that's a lot of that is due to in wearables, the breakaway and the ease of mating is because anybody with a wearable solution, they're going to be the ones connecting and disconnecting it. They're going to be the ones that if they accidentally step on it or kick it or catch it on a chair, that they'll want it to disconnect and not pull on the part of the device that's connected to their body. And that also goes in the operatory room. Reliability and integrity are paramount. There's not much in the way of sacrificing performance when going to a disposable solution, at least not that we've seen. Typically, an OEM is looking for the same level of performance or to meet the same requirements. They just want to know if there's a way to do it in a disposable way. So we still have to be able to produce immaculate image quality in anything in the imaging landscape. Image quality is king, so there's no sacrifice to be made there. And so is signal and power for ablation. If you're doing a pulsed field ablation or an RF ablation or any other type of ablation, you need the consistent application of the requisite power to actually ablate tissue effectively. Otherwise, there is potential risk to the patient, but also the risk that the ailment isn't properly addressed. Reliable connections, reduce interruptions, and improve diagnostics and outcomes. Basically, making sure that when it's mated and it's connected, it's going to work every time. And then the last but not least is customization, which sort of pigtails off design flexibility. So we make sure that in all of the products that we offer, especially for the markets that we serve, that there is an element that can be customized for as low an investment as possible for our customers. Meaning, in a lot of cases, they can simply customize the layout of the insulator, where all the contacts, or the density of that insulator, and they have their own custom version, and they don't have to sacrifice any of the outer shell, the breakaway latch, the overmolding, all of that can stay the same. It's purely the internals that we would customize for. So that brings us to our Hypergrip. For those of you familiar with the Hypergrip, it's been around for a long time. It is a patented and proven high reliability push-pull connector designed specifically for medical and used for a long time in medical. It launched in the early 2000s, and we've had continuous good response and feedback on the performance, the reliability, and the customizability of this platform specifically, which made it a logical choice for us to branch out into the disposables market with. It has a long-standing reputation for its reliability, its versatility, its combination of keying and colors, and its quick and accurate connections. It has the designations of being fingerproof, as well as having a UL 94 rating, and our reusable versions are compatible with most sterilizable device requirements. Today, we're looking at how do we take something that's tried and true and has a loyal following and offer the next logical step to that platform, which is our disposable cost-effective solutions. And while we strive to keep as much the same as our original platform, there are certain elements that aren't necessarily required, especially considering the sterilization requirements. It is still sterilizable via an EO cycle, ethylene oxide, but we don't necessarily market this one for reusable sterilization, like an autoclave. From a marketing strategy standpoint, I've mentioned we've seen a number of applications that do not require high cycle life or high numbers of sterilizations as technical requirements, but they still require that premium look, feel, and performance of a medical connector. The disposables market demands more flexible and premium solutions for high volume production processes. I've mentioned some of the most recent technologies that are really starting to make disposables more and more critical, while asking more of those connectors to do more, especially in the way of delivering higher voltage. Therefore, the need for a disposable solution that maintains a premium look, reliability, and regulatory compliance makes sense that we would use the Hypergrip, which is why we've released the disposable series that maintains electrical performance with limited cycle life and environmental tolerance. For disposable, I know it sounds when you say disposable that you only connect it one time. Typically, even a disposable throughout the time of a procedure is mated and demated a few times. So what we do is we rate it up to 30 cycles so that even if it's used 5, 10, 15 times, or mated and demated 5, 10, 15 times within a procedure, there's no risk of it failing. The disposable HG plug-in receptacle are highly flexible, minimalistic connectors that offer electrical performance and premium look of the standard HG series for disposable applications. And you can see there on the bottom left, that is an example of our disposable HG2, and then in the blue is the disposable HG4, and the picture in the top is our reusables. And you can see, hard to tell the difference, and that's intentional. From a value standpoint, what we're offering to the market are improved technical and value alignment. Some of the features that Aidan will talk about soon will convey how we've adjusted the design of our reusable HG to make it more cost effective, more favorable for high volume manufacturing, which also helps us reduce the total cost and really meet the targets of our customers who are looking for disposable solutions. Longer life cycle than other incumbent disposables offerings. A lot of times you'll see anywhere from 5 to 15 cycles. Like I mentioned, we went up to 30 just to give that extra factor of safety. The breakaway design, which we also call a passive latch, means that if there's a pulling force applied, the connector will disengage rather than hold on to its mating connector, which is in the disposables market segment is really critical to make sure that you're not accidentally pulling something that's again attached to a patient. We do all of the same qualification testing, biocompatibility verification, RoHS verification that we do on all of our products. So we do reduce the risk of our customers being able to qualify with our product because we meet all of their baseline requirements ourselves as part of our standard testing. And then the improved value due to premium look and feel, but also the foolproof mating, easy cleaning, and reduced chances for cut or torn gloves. And what we'll do now is we're going to play a video, a short video. I think it's less than a minute long. That'll just walk you through some of the key features, and then from there we'll carry on.
The popular Hypergrip medical connector series offers disposable plug and receptacle versions in 12 and 33 standard contact configurations, complete with 6 color options for effortless mating recognition and 6 different keying options that prevent mismating. They feature a breakaway push-pull latching system that allows for easy one-hand mating, are designed for at least 30 mating cycles and support overmolding and high-volume production methods.
Okay, so before I send it over to Aiden, I just wanted to give a quick reminder of the target applications where we're seeing disposables being used and where we're seeing the need for disposables growing. We've talked about all of these, and again, this is just a reminder. So what I'll do now is I'll send it over to Aiden, our senior design engineer, to talk more about some of the technical aspects of the family.
Yes, thank you, Justin. Again, like Justin said, my name is Aiden Irvin here with Smiths Interconnect. I'm a design engineer here with Smiths. Wanted to touch on a lot of what Justin has presented so far and kind of wrap it up into what the engineering design choices and achievements we were able to make with creating this disposable sector, the disposable connector. Starting on the left, as previously mentioned, we've chose 2 of our HG sizes to create the disposable connector series. That is the HG2 with 12 positions and the HG4 with 33 positions. We felt like that captured a broad group of customers and would satisfy our needs with those sizes. One of the things we did to achieve this more cost-efficient design was reducing the number of parts in the receptacle and even the plug itself. When you're looking at the receptacle, those of you that may be familiar with the standard HG receptacle would know that there's a housing, a seal, and an insulator that you could selectively key when assembling. For the disposable receptacle, those 3 pieces were made into one, which the advantage is that it's less components and less of a spot to make a mistake when you're assembling, choosing the wrong key. But something to note is that when you are ordering these, you will be selecting your key upon ordering and not upon assembly. The crimp and poke style sockets and pins for the plug are still what we use in the disposable. On the receptacle specifically, the mid-range socket that Smiths offers is the standard, and all of the tooling that you would be using for the standard receptacle is the same tooling you would use for the disposable. Like Justin mentioned, the design really offers good support for high volume manufacturing processes, and while utilizing the mid-range socket, that does help us keep the electrical performance that you would be familiar with the Smiths HG product line. Then on the right side, we're looking at the molded in keyway, which again goes with it being in one piece. Like I said previously, that would be different part numbers that you'd be ordering. The panel seal options that you might be familiar with on the standard receptacle all are the exact same part that we're able to use on the disposable product line. That means the colors that you may be already using would be the exact same colors you could use if you decide to switch to the disposable. And that look and feel would stay the same from standard to disposable. One of the things we wanted to make sure that we retained from the standard HG was a sleek design with no sharp edges. Those of you that are familiar with the medical environment, that helps with easy cleaning and de-risking possible rips in gloves and needing unwanted steps during medical environment that could come up. The disposable receptacle and disposable plug does round out the HG product line, where anything you would select between the standard and disposable, as long as they're in the right size and the right key, will mate with each other. You can do disposable receptacle with a standard plug. You can do disposable receptacle with a disposable plug, and then the other way as well. You can mate the disposable plugs and the standard plugs with the other receptacle. Then to kind of wrap up what Justin had talked about on previous couple slides, all the things that we know our customers would need are designed into this product line. IPX4 sealing, you may see an asterisk there. That is because it's looking at the mated condition. That mated condition is highly influenced by the way the plug is cabled and finished, either overmolded or potted. So that does affect the overall rating, but when the plug is set up and assembled correctly, the receptacle will help support IPX4 rating. The receptacle also does meet UL 94, I believe it's HB. We do meet fingerproof requirements for IEC 60601-1, and we do meet the ISO 10993 biocompatibility. So this slide, we're just going to go over what parts you would expect if you were to order the disposable receptacle. Less parts than the standard receptacle. Starting in the bottom left, that is the insulator. That's where the selected key would be, and is what houses the mid-range contacts. Those are the same mid-range contacts we've been offering for the standard receptacle. Those of you that would be working with the assembly, all of your standard crimping tools and insertion tools would work with this receptacle. Then we're looking at the medical grade panel seal. Again, that is directly from the standard HG product line. The colors that you may already be using can stay the exact same. The fit and the seal is the exact same as the standard receptacle. And then the top right, the plastic panel nut. This was chosen over the metal panel nut that is offered on the standard. The metal panel nut is slimmer. It's got some advantages of its own, but when looking at a disposable product line, if you need a panel nut specifically, the plastic one we chose, we felt like gave the customer the most flexibility while keeping the cost down as much as possible. And then this last slide here, I just wanted to kind of touch on some differences between the disposable and the standard. And before I get going, you may notice on these photos, from the last slide, we were looking at a disposable with the green panel seal. This photo does have the blue panel seal for the disposable, and then on the right would be the standard with a green panel seal, so you can kind of see that interchangeability. So first off, we've touched on it a couple times, the mating cycles. With the disposable, we spec'd it for 30. Justin mentioned the benefits of that, while the standard can go up to 20,000. we felt like the disposable, with the needs that we would expect the customer to use it for, 30 was a good target. Same 6 different keying options. I just want to reiterate again, the disposable, you will be selecting that upon ordering what key you would need. And then a clarification that we do not offer the disposable with the HG3. We're only offering with the HG2 and 4. 6 different color options. I believe in the last couple slides you've seen red, green, blue, and then the other colors we currently offer as well. The standard receptacle is rated for IP65 or IPX5 if you're just looking at the liquid ingress portion. The disposable, we did stay with IPX4, so that is a slight difference you may see there. And then the last few lines are going to reiterate that whatever combination you would end up choosing, either standard plug or disposable plug, that you would be able to mate them with the disposable receptacle and vice versa. So this kind of mechanically rounds out the Hypergrip product line pretty nicely. Now I'll send it back to Justin.
Versus our standard, or just comparing how they serve the market needs. You see our original Hypergrip was designed for multiple applications, and with the new Hypergrip, given that it has the same contact count, the same footprint, same form factor, a lot of those applications still apply. And in some cases, we're actually taking what the standard delivered and we are pushing that forward by offering a disposable version. The standard version, for instance, in patient monitoring and catheters, it is being used today in those applications. However, the disposable version will meet the needs of that market more completely, because it does offer a lower cost for that, again, that same footprint. So that's why you see 2 check marks for patient monitoring and catheters versus 1 for the standard. And it's purely because that disposable, again, achieves that additional market need from a cost perspective. For you will notice that for the Hypergrip disposable, we don't necessarily market it as or state it as much for imaging, and the reason why is disposable imaging applications are typically higher density. They have more contacts than the 33 that Aiden mentioned come in our larger size HG, which is the HG4. We are working on other products that will suit the needs of those higher density, higher contact count markets. So for imaging, you may not be as successful finding an application, again, for something in that 33 count range for a disposable option. Comparing us to some of the currently released products in the market, we, from a keying and color coding standpoint, we have a great selection of, we have 6 keys and 6 colors, which gives you a lot of opportunities to differentiate your product. For instance, if you have multiple devices and you want them all to have a slightly different mate so that you can't connect the wrong one to the wrong catheter handle, you can choose either different colors or different keys or both. The best alternates have half as many keys, with the next best alternate having a third of the number of keys. The reason we stuck with 6 is because our Hypergrip reusable series has had 6 keys for a long time, and it has served us well, so we just carried those forward. Multiple sizes, you'll notice there's a bit of parity here. It seems like everyone thinks that there's the right solution is, somewhere around a dozen, and somewhere around 30 to 35 positions is the right spot for this particular segment of the market. And again, our HG series already had sizes in those ranges, and we were able to again basically accomplish the same. We do ship our contacts uninstalled, meaning Aiden a couple slides ago showed a drawing that showed the different components, the 4 different components. You get those components all as a kit, not assembled. And what we see in the way of that being a benefit, some may think that that's actually not a benefit. The reason we see a benefit is we have, more often than not, customers may not want to load, let's say, all 33 contacts into their HG4 because they want additional space or clearance between contacts because they might be running for a high voltage application. So they may want to populate every other contact. Or they may be buying a 33 position, but they're only going to use 20 positions. So they don't want to have all 30 installed or all 33 installed out of the gate. Giving them the flexibility to load it as their application requires helps them with faster prototyping. And then if they want, once their prototyping is done and their proof of concept is done, and they now have funds to maybe get a minor custom, let's say, for instance, they're doing 20 pins instead of 33, we can customize that insulator for them for a low tooling charge, and now they have their own custom version, but they didn't have to pay for that custom version until they proved out the entire concept. So we see that as a benefit. IPX4, we are the only solution that is IPX4 when properly assembled and potted. The next best alternatives are technically the non-disposable version of the same connector for those other two. Backwards compatibility and color coding, those are, I'll say, table stakes, especially the backwards compatibility. It just makes sense that if you're going to release a disposable that is along the same family as your reusable, that they mate with each other, because typically you're mating a disposable to either a limited reuse or a fully reusable durable connector. So that's just, you just have to have both options. And then color coding, the reason we have 6 is because just like our keys, we've had 6 for a long time. It has served us well. We've never seen a need for more than that. So 6 is what we're sticking with. And then what we'll talk about now quickly is just a couple of examples of where we've seen our connectors be successful, not just the Hypergrip, but we'll also talk about some of our other families that are being used in other disposable applications and how the HG could potentially, or how our new disposables can help in those markets as well. So the Hypergrip, the legacy of the Hypergrip is that it's a long-standing push-pull connector. There's an actual picture of a device there in the middle with a bunch of our connectors in it being used. And in this use case, they're being used on limited use applications. So in this case, these cables with these plugs on them are sterilized a couple of times and then they're thrown away. There's a lot of applications where the cable is never used again and it's used just one time. And the benefit of having a disposable option is now you can get that connector, that plug side connector, for a much lower cost than you would the reusable version. And since you're not needing the reusable mating cycle life, you save some cost without sacrificing performance. We are also, all of our manufacturing is done in an ISO 13485 certified environment. We comply with all industry standards associated with ISO 13485, and we also comply with IEC 60601, which Aiden mentioned, as well as UL and sterilization compatibility where required or depending on the use case. And I mentioned earlier how our reusable version of this family is compatible with things like autoclave sterilization, steam sterilization, other types of sterilization, while our disposable is really only intended to be get that initial cycle of ethylene oxide so that it can enter the sterile environment. And then a couple other examples. Our Eclipta was I'll say our original disposable option. It is a different technology. It's a card edge technology where one side has a PCB, the other side has basically a wafer with bent fingers to make contact with the PCB. The nice thing about the Eclipta is that while it can't be selectively populated, you always get the same number of contacts because these pins they come installed. Or this wafer is made in one configuration. So you'll always have the same 34 connections. However, either the customer or we can customize the PCB itself to only use the connections needed for the application, or also to reduce cost. One of the large benefits of the Eclipta as well is that you can make it so the PCB is either in the receptacle side or the plug side. So you can reverse gender these so that the wafer is in the other side. And all that means is that whichever side you put the PCB in, that's your really low cost side. So you can pick if you want the receptacle to be the disposable side, which is shown here, and the plug is the reusable, or you can flip it and have the PCB in the plug, and then the plug becomes the disposable side, and the receptacle becomes the reusable side. You cannot order a disposable and disposable and have them mate, because then you just have two PCBs touching each other. So you always have to have one of them be the reusable side, but the nice thing is you have the flexibility to pick which side you want. We've seen this be really successful, especially in recent applications. There is a recently released pulse field ablation catheter device that got a FDA approval late last calendar year and is now starting to commercialize. And so this is really starting to take off for us in that specific application. With the D series, it's been used for a very long time in cryoablation catheters, and it's also used in RF ablation extension cables. And this one, inverse to the Clipta and even our disposable HG, our D series wasn't necessarily designed or priced to be a disposable, but it was the best solution the customer had at the moment. That said, we also know that next generations of these types of catheters, now that there's more disposable solutions available on the market, the chances of a customer switching to a disposable are very high. So we're releasing products that we know can meet those disposable needs, because we know that, again, the cost associated with these high reuse connectors is just not going to last as long as manufacturers keep coming out with disposable solutions. So to wrap up, we talked about the target applications. We talked about each of them in some level of detail. And then we talked about a lot of the features and benefits of the new Hypergrip disposable, improved value and technical alignment, longer life cycle than competing disposable options, the breakaway design, 6 colors, 6 keys, gives you a lot of flexibility while being designed specifically for disposable applications. The compliance, due to our testing, our RoHS compliance, our biocompatibility to ISO 10993, are all things that we carry forward from our reusable to our disposable family. And then the overall improved value of having a premium look and feel intermatable connector that mates with our tried and true Hypergrip family, with a good design for the medical market, with intuitive mating and smooth contours. And what we'll do now is I'll hand it back to Katie, and she will take Q&A.
All right, Justin, thank you so much for that great presentation. And Aiden, thank you for yours as well. So as Justin mentioned, we are going to take some questions from our audience at this time. For our audience members, if you have a question for us today, feel free to enter that into the Q&A window and click submit. We'll have time for a couple questions today. We are getting close to the top of the hour. So if you do ask a question and it does not get answered, don't worry. We will reach out to you following today's webinar. All right, gentlemen, our first question today. Does this new receptacle fit within the exact same panel cutout as the current receptacle?
Yeah, so I can take this. Not exactly. Depending on how close your cutout fits, it may not be a direct replacement. There are some slight differences, but with the panel seal being the exact fit, you can expect the overall shape to be the same. It just kind of matters on your panel seal shape or panel cutout shape.
All right, thank you so much for that answer. All right, next one in the queue here. How will I know what key I have received or am looking at?
Yeah, I can take this again. On the back of the connector, when you're doing that population, like Justin talked about, after you've terminated your contacts, there is a key designation when you're looking at the holes you'll be populating into. So it's right front and center when you're looking at it on the back.
Thank you for that answer. For all of our audience members, we have one more question left in our queue, so feel free to ask anything at this time if you do have a question. Before I ask that last question, I want to point out our resource widget There are some items listed in there today. Feel free to grab those right now. You can download them and take them with you. All right, gentlemen, the last question we have in the queue right now. Does selective populating affect the IP rating of the connector?
Yeah, that's a good question. So no, like I presented or mentioned in my slides, a lot of that will be driven on how the plug is assembled and if it's potted correctly. But if you put in less contacts while doing all of that stuff correctly, that will not affect the IP rating. Nope. Thanks for that question too.
All right, thank you so much. So we did just get a question that popped in right now. I'll ask that, gentleman, and do your best to answer. And if not, we can always reach out to this person following the webinar. But this person is asking, is there any time limitation for a 30 mating cycle before the connector is disposed?
Yeah, I think I can take that one. If I understand correctly, the question is basically, those 30 mating cycles have to happen within a certain amount of time? And the answer is no. It's rated for 30. Full disclosure, we qualify it internally with the factor of safety. So we make sure that it will last over 30 cycles in order for us to qualify it to 30. Those 30 cycles purely just suit the types of environments where these devices are being used. Typically, an electrophysiology mapping and ablation procedure can take anywhere from 4 to, let's say, 8 hours for more complicated cases. All of your mates and demates are going to happen within that procedure. This is not intended to be then used on a second patient, for instance. At least, again, that's not the intent. It is intended to be used for a single patient during a single session, so to speak. And no, within that session, there's no time limit on when those 30 cycles have to be used up.
All right, great. Thank you so much for that answer. So those are all the questions we have right now, gentlemen. We are right at the top of the hour, so perfect timing. So at this point, I would like to wrap the webinar up. So I want to say a huge thank you to Justin and Aiden for a great presentation, for sharing such good information, and for taking a couple of our attendees' questions. So gentlemen, thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
All right, and for our audience members, before you go, grab those items out of the resource widget, as I mentioned. Thank you all for being here today. You will be receiving an email from us with a link to the on-demand version of this presentation. You'll be able to come back and watch this again or share it with colleagues. And lastly, take a moment to complete the survey that's going to appear on your screen at the end of the webinar. For anybody watching this on demand, you'll find that survey located along the bottom of your attendee console in that survey widget. Again, thank you all for taking time to attend this webinar event today. Take care, and we will speak with you soon.